This is Chandra Powell with Proven Not Perfect, and I'm so delighted to have this conversation with someone very near and dear to me, just a beautiful soul that I'm sharing with you today. I'm going to tell y'all about her amazing bio, just a few of the highlights before we get started. Yvette Foy is a gifted orator and natural storyteller from a very young age. She went to college. She did a 4-year stint in the military as a top secret intelligence analyst. And I believe that probably poured in a little bit to some of the fascinating ideas that she designs in her own head and brings to things like film and TV screen. In fact, she relocated to Los Angeles, working with 20th Century Fox and Fox Broadcasting. She's penned amazing scripts. She co-wrote and produced a series with, wait for this one, Issa Rae, entitled How Men Become Dogs. Okay, that's fire. And then I'm sure you guys like me have heard of First Wives Club. Yeah, so she's written on that for 3 seasons. And if you're like me also and grew up loving Soul Train, Don Cornelius's story, The American Soul, she had the privilege of writing in that too. Yvette is amazing. She has, projects that are in play with studios such as CBS Studios, Archwell Productions. And she's just doing the thing, girl. I could keep going. You're just doing the thing. So I don't want to wait any more time. I want to say welcome, Yvette. I want to say I miss you. I'm so glad to see you.
I know. It's been a minute since I've seen you in person, right? Like a long time. But that's why I thank God for Zoom. Like, it has its things, but I'm very, very thankful for FaceTime, for Zoom, for all of the wonderful things that technology brings to our world. And for that, for me, it's mostly connecting with people, connecting with people, being able to have the visual image of seeing them, the sound is great, but also seeing them. Obviously, I'm in a very visual medium, so images matter to me. Seeing people matters to me. I'm grateful for that. And thank you for having me.
Girl, you are welcome. It's my privilege and pleasure to have. I keep saying I have a village of all-stars. And you know what, when people talk about their gifts and talents, I believe one of the things that God has blessed me to do was to recognize the all-stars around me from very little. And, I don't let y'all out the village. Once you're in, right? So that's how this goes. But I want to actually talk about what you just said. Talk about gifts and talents. I think your ability to see people has been something that I've admired since we were a little girl. I believe that seeing people not only allows us to be present in conversation when we're with them, but it also allows us to truly take something away from the experience with them. And because that's your gift, I believe it's kind of helped you with your journey. Can we back up the bus a little bit and talk about Yvette as a little girl? Like when you think about your happiest moment as a little girl, where were you? Like, take a minute, think about it. Where were you and what was going on around you?
At my grandparents' house in the lower 9th ward. I already know. In the lower 9th ward, they
New Orleans.
Yes, of New Orleans. I forget this. It's a worldwide podcast of New Orleans, Louisiana, and it is. They had a double lot, so the house was on one lot, a shotgun house, from the front to the back, and you could, all the rooms straight connected, and the lot next to it was as big as the lot that the house was on, and it was fenced in and grassy, and there were like a few little hills inside of it. And my mom would always, we would go together. My brothers and sisters are markedly older than I am, and there's a 6-year gap between me and my and the youngest sibling above me. So when I was like 7, he was 13, 14, 16, and 17. So they were, doing their thing. And I was the tag along. And I would spend hours in that yard. Like she would let me run around. I would be outside by myself. I was definitely the kid who could totally entertain herself because of my imagination. And I remember just like running up on top of the hill and standing there and imagining like what that entire yard was, a different kingdom and different, if there were fairies out there or there were princesses and princes, and just like being out there with my imagination and the grass and the trees and the flowers and the butterflies and all of that. Like that is definitely my happy place. Like of remembering that. Yeah.
Oh
outside,
my God.
but
Seriously?
free, but safe, because there was like a wire, fence all the way around, and I could see all around, but I wasn't afraid to be out there. I wasn't, I didn't feel like I was in danger of being hit by a car. I wasn't worried about the ants or the, whatever. I've never been afraid of creatures, but just that's me and my imagination, like, and being able to explore and not being caged, not being limited, not being, go sit down and be quiet, just nothing like that. Like my mom she's, God bless her, she just let me be.
God rest her soul. That is beautiful, because I think there's a big responsibility that comes with having a soul like yours, right? That sometimes is a little bit bigger than the fences that we try to put them in, right? So how did that manifest in your school education, right? When you went to school now as this little person who just shared, you got your energy from space and for the freedom to create, right? So that didn't always look the same in schools, and for sure not Catholic schools.
It did not. I think that because my mother knew who I was, she always supplemented what I needed creatively to keep me busy and to wear me out.
That's real.
And yes. And also, I came from also like a bit of a no nonsense, like there wasn't, although I remember her saying I was the child of a million questions, which I definitely got back when my daughter was 4 years old. I was like, oh my gosh, she is wearing me out with these questions. And, I always respected, I was taught to listen and to respect. And I knew that there would be consequences for getting in trouble in school. And so I was never like a child who acted out, but I loved to talk. So I did. Oh yes, you didn't know that. Yes, I did. So my life was A's and C's in conduct. It was A's and C's. It was like I excelled in my work, but like there was always the talking component. And when I was younger, what she did was, went to the school and said, give her more work. Because she knew that I wasn't being challenged. And the minute that I finished my work, like I was looking for the person next to me to talk to. I wanted to socialize. I wanted company. I wanted, fellowship. And that's what usually would, and as soon as like the teachers increased my workload, that dissipated. And then she moved me to another school that was a little more challenging. And so then there was that, which came with its own, its own challenges. But she filled my life with dance and art and the all the extracurricular activities that we could handle, because I was the fifth child. I always say, gosh, my mom was tired. And she was probably like, okay, God, you gave me this little girl at the end, but also probably would have been stifled like at the beginning, as like parents are trying to figure out that first child. And there's a lot of okay, what is this supposed to don't? And I'm afraid, and you might fall. And, I see a lot of that. And because I was the baby of the family, it was inherently like I was allowed to just kind of the freedom to be. And she knew, like, you kind of know by the fifth child, okay, they're going to fall, they're going to bruise, they're going to bump, but, they'll be okay. You're not. Yeah. And so, allowing me to make, to be and to make, but within the framework of Catholic school, it was oftentimes very interesting. And I did 12 years of Catholic school, and technically 15, because I had 3 years of preschool with the nuns. So that was, it was, I learned discipline, and I learned how to still be creative, which is something that I've had to recently remind myself of. Hey, you've known how to be creative with constraints, for a while. So when you are tasked to alter and shift, because a lot of times creative projects are collaborative, and that's a learning in itself, being able to be open to bring in other people's ideas, share your vision for it with them, but also be mindful that like they have a vision for it. It's those are what parameters, not constraints.
So I want to talk a little bit about that collaboration, because no matter what you do as a businesswoman or a person in business, quite frankly, collaboration is one of those expectations, even more so now than ever before, as we talk about inclusivity of people and experiences and diversity and all that stuff. Have you always felt like there was space for you at the table?
No. No.
That's real.
But I think growing up the way that I did, there's something about being the baby that also makes you persistent. Ooh. And I've been told, you're always used to getting your way. And I was like, I had to kind of fight for my way. Okay, sure. There were times that like they coddled me and they were like, oh, she's the cute little baby. But then you have to also, like, there are 4 other siblings around you, and you learn how to, I guess it's the squeaky wheel, concept. And so it's like, okay, perhaps, and I became very convincing, which is why I think my grandfather used to say, in addition to the fact that I like to talk a lot, she should be an attorney. She should be an attorney, right? And because I had a very convincing argument, I would always kind of line up, like stack my argument, like, okay, these are the things that I need to prove my argument. And so, I would come in ready. And then, so a lot of times I would win, and I just became prepared for that, which honestly, when there wasn't a seat at the table, my thought was like, okay, bring your own.
Oh,
tell me,
Tell us more about that. What do you mean?
So the web series, what happened is right in the middle of me being in LA, the industry began to change. And
tell us time frame. This is about when?
So I arrived in right around 2010 is when this happened. When this happened. And so the industry began to change and people began to take the medium into their own hands. So we're talking about, I think when I moved here in 2007, like late 2007, GoPro was the GoPro camera, right? Was a thing, or it was at least just coming out. And so you could see people getting experimental with the GoPro and shooting their own things and then deciding, oh, this doesn't just have to be a reality thing. I don't have to just take the GoPro jet skiing or, filming my own live experiences. I can do something scripted. I can write a script. I can put people in it and I can use the GoPro to shoot it. And at that time, also, we had the rise of Apple technology and an iPhone, and then the cameras as you look throughout the years. Well, the iPod too. I remember the year that I got here, a friend of mine, who's a really established actor right now. Do we get to do shout outs?
Sure you can.
Okay. Terrence Rosemore is a really good friend of mine. And he's on some really great shows right now. Way back in 2008, he showed me something he had shot on his iPod. And he was like, listen, this is what the future of media looks like. This is what the future of television looks like. Everyone's going to be watching shows on these little small, devices. And I remember thinking, okay, sure. Like, I really love sitting in the theater. I am still the girl who likes the quiet, like dark, and the big pictures that are larger than life. And he was right. He was right. Wow. So it took people like having the technology in their hands and saying, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to wait for a TV studio to green light, my project. I don't have to wait for someone to say, here's $1 million for you to do this project. I can actually gather the people around me who are talented. I can put them together and I can tell stories, which is what this is all about. So that's what we did.
Did that allow, do you think that probably instigated some of the inclusivity of stories? Because now those barriers were very different than they were before.
Absolutely. Because before you have an industry that's telling everyone what they should watch, there's a bit of hit or miss, but they are monitoring, going all the way back to Nielsen boxes, and Nielsen ratings. Okay. But then you have they're only monitoring a certain segment of the population with Nielsen, right? So the internet kind of blows that out of the water and says, okay, anyone who has access to a signal, who has access to a device, and, that's not even just laptops, just stand-up computers. That's public libraries. You have access, that's now in schools, with Chromebooks and, but also then the smartphone is the device in your hand. And so now the access, the availability and the access, when those two things meet, that created a lane for us, because then we were able to prove what we had known all along. Hey, we have worthy content. Hey, we tell stories that are interesting, that are unique, that are vibrant, that people, we have the experiences of what you deem the mainstream, and we love, we laugh, we hurt, we cry, we have all of these exciting and poignant things that happen to us, and we want to share them. And not just that, but we also believe people want to see them.
Wow.
which is what happened. And that's exactly what happened with Issa Rae and a number of other people, but yeah, she said, hey, there is a market for, an awkward Black girl. And shout out to her for getting in there and saying, yeah, people do want to see this. Like, people want to see this. And everyone said, yeah, we do. We actually want to see this. So, yeah. Yeah.
So dang, girl, you have given like some drop the mic shout outs. So let me ask you this. When you are showing up in these spaces, and I guess for us, we'll hear these shout outs, we'll hear these names, and we'll be like, wow, that takes some confidence. But if we're really honest, you were there all along, right? So these are people that were in your peer group growing and coming into being as you've grown and come into being, right?
Right.
And, I think that's pretty darn cool, because we get the privilege of talking to you and thinking about what is it like to come up in creative Hollywood, knowing how competitive it is. I would imagine that there's a dose of confidence that's required like daily. How do you pull from where to have what it takes to show up in these spaces that are, quite frankly, are not always pulling for you?
Right. Yeah. It can be quite daunting. And I'll just share with you what I've learned and what I believe is key no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
The journey isn't about the talent.
Oh,
the journey. The journey isn't. It isn't about the talent. It isn't about your skill set. It's about believing in yourself. It's about believing in the talent that you possess, why you showed up to the world, what you have to say, what you have to offer, what you have is important. And if you don't believe that, if you look around and you believe that everyone else's gift or talent is more important than yours, if what they bring to the table is more important than what you bring to the table, then you'll forever shrink in that. You won't have the confidence to stand up. You won't honor what it is that you have. That's the journey, Chantra. It really is. And my mom used to say, don't put people on a pedestal. They put their pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time, right?
Yeah,
and I would be like, okay. I get that when it comes to Barack and Michelle, right? I get that when it comes to people who feel like they're out of reach a bit. I get that. Okay, I respect Oprah. I love Oprah. But, Oprah puts her pants on the same way I do, one leg at a time. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way I would feel. But getting real, when you are in a room full of people, when you have cohorts who you look at who are so talented, who have MBAs and who have, they went to Ivy League schools, and, I went to OSU. That was intimidating for me. When I first started out, it was like, okay, I also came into this industry in my 30s when a lot of people came in their 20s. And so there was, oh my gosh, what if they don't want to hear what I have to say? What if I, not owning my power, not understanding that I came to this industry with 10 years worth of knowledge, worth of experiences, that my whole perspective was a different perspective than people who were just getting out of college, and that was an asset, not a detriment. Like, that was a learning for me. That and all of that is part of building your confidence. All of that is what says, okay, this is why I'm selecting this project over this project. Okay, this is why I'm choosing this perspective over this perspective. This is what I have to say, and this is why I see the project this way. Mm-hmm. And if you don't see it that way, that's fine. But this is the way. Go ahead. But
I have to point out something, because I think that this is the brilliance of what you're saying, and it's literally just adding a cherry on top of everything that you're saying as I amen it. You clearly acknowledge that not only is it showing up with right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, but it's also showing up with choice.
Yeah.
Too many people surrender the choice part, because you can bring the confidence all day long, and be on the wrong street. Hello, have you right? Like that happens.
I see it. It happens. Yeah.
But man, there is something so amazing about that confidence, being so connected with the freedom of choice.
Yes.
Owning your decision. You own it, right? You own the yeses and the no's.
I own the yeses and the no's, because the no's are part of the package. Like they're part of the package, but it only requires one yes. Like you're gonna be turned down. You know, rejection is a part of the business.
How do you deal with that? You got to tell us, because seriously, a lot of so getting back to keeping that confidence,
right,
and also getting back to choice to turn things down yourself.
Yeah,
it feels like that's easy when you have a lot of choices. But sometimes when we don't have one, and we've been trying, we too quickly want to anyone that comes, we got to say yes, because we don't know if another will come. Ooh. And I have to work on myself on that too, right? When I say, okay, I want to go down this street, and everything's not coming at me at once. How do I make sure that I still stay in that discernment and clarity of what it is I'm calling to me?
Right.
And able to say no to what's not. Ooh.
You spend a lot of time in prayer, in meditation. You spend time connecting with the God source and making sure that you're in alignment. You surround yourself with people who are not just yes men. You surround yourself with a collective, of truth tellers.
Amen. Ooh.
Of truth tellers. And what I have learned is that my village of truth tellers are also rock stars. They are, but it's not always vice versa. Sometimes people want to surround themselves with rock stars. They want to surround themselves with, okay, baby, if you're not doing anything in the business, if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, if you're not this, if you're not that, then you can't be around. Okay, that's your philosophy. But to me, at the end of the day, when I've been working 6 months on a project and they come back and they say, actually, we want to go in a different direction, and my soul is crushed. I don't need someone that says, girl, you're a rock star. Get back up and go and sell that again. I need someone who's going to say, I know that was disappointing. I know that was soul crushing. I know that hurt. Lick your wounds, then get back up and go. Because whether or not they chose you, you're still a rock star. Whether or not they chose your project, you're still worthy. You're still worthy. I should be clapping so our sound gets.
But that's good.
Okay. Yeah, you're still,
But Yvette, I think
go ahead.
What you're saying to me, what I'm receiving from you is the people that you're talking about, these truth tellers. Something really important that I just want to underscore is, it's okay to lick your wound.
Yes.
Then, and then you said an important word, then get up.
Yes. Yes.
Because you still are. Like that whole sentence, if you break it down,
if you don't acknowledge, if you don't acknowledge the hurt from rejection, what you'll do is you'll collect all of these rejections and you'll stuff it without feeling the pain of it, and then it'll come out. It will eventually come out somewhere along the line. I think it was 2015. I had not been processing the hurt of it all, and I just felt like I was on a hamster wheel. I think that's when you begin creating without passion, creating without feeling, because you stuff your emotions, you stunt them, and then you don't realize by stunting the pain, you're also stunting the joy. You're also stunting the very things that you need to create and to be successful. So feeling that pain is important, but nobody wants to cry alone. It's why I avoided drama for a very long time. I was like, I don't want to be crying over my laptop. That's ridiculous. right? But the reality is, when you have someone who will hold you, who will hold space for you, who will say, oh my God, that really must have hurt. I know how much you put into that project. I know how much you put into that relationship. I know how much you put into that child. Whatever it is that you have given time and skill and talent to, that you've given your heart to. Because when you're creating, a lot of it is giving your heart to it. It hurts when you're rejected. And you need to honor that. You need to honor that. So especially when you put time into it. Woo, there was a couple of ones that I was like, oh, this one, it can't be the one that takes me out. I won't let it, and then that's cool because you get back.
Yvette, I'm hearing also, you have this ability, whether it was immediate or learned, to disassociate your own value from the work. And I think a lot of times
it was learned, but go ahead.
A lot of times we get wrapped up in that, right? We keep them together. And so when that no comes, you feel the hurt, and you probably feel it longer than you should, because it's about you not being enough versus the work. And, I think that there's something there too, as people acknowledge strategies to dealing with no's, which is what I would say this is that we're talking about.
How about this? How about sometimes it's not even, it's a shift of that, the thinking of the project wasn't enough to thinking that the project wasn't the right fit, or it wasn't the right time, or it wasn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There are so many factors that come in. And I know that what I create is amazing.
Yes.
It just may not be the right fit for this particular studio, for this particular distribution platform. Yes. Okay. I also know that, this is something that I just learned. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
Ooh!
I was like, that's deep in my soul.
The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. Wow.
You may not be ready to handle it. You may not be ready to, there's so many factors, right, that are in play. I am always trusting that I am in the right place at the right time.
Okay. And if you're not, you're going to be moved.
I am. That's it, period. Because I'm always listening, and I'm always checking. And I think that that's something that I've always done, I think, in my journey as an adult, introspection. And so it's not looking around it or saying, it's when something happens, trying to place blame elsewhere. It's
Yeah.
looking and saying, okay, what could I have done better in this situation? What could I take for the next time? Right? Not that there were not things that I did wonderfully, because I'm about applauding those things that I did that I believe were absolutely amazing and perfect for the moment. But perhaps there was something, perhaps I could have done a better job of listening. Perhaps I could not have ignored that red flag early on when they told me they wanted X, Y, and Z in this project. I'm a big, I was an Olivia Pope fan before there was even an Olivia Pope, because it's like, I always trust your gut, go with your gut. It's like, that's what I mean, when I say that, as far as, okay, what is your gut telling you? And when you ignore those things, a lot of times you're putting yourself in a place where you'll end up eventually feeling the brunt of not listening to everything, that was going on.
I tell you, the beauty of this is exactly what you've said a couple times. This does not matter if it's what industry. This conversation is industry agnostic. It's even work agnostic, right? It's down to even how you move with the people in your life, and with the things that you face in life, right? We will all go through stuff that is sticky and hard. How do we do the tough job of not owning the sticky, tough stuff
as a personal, taking it personally, right? Because I think that move through it, right. Don't become it. That is, I think that for a long time I didn't understand when people would say, oh, don't take it personally. I was like, this is my creation. This is my baby. You don't create anything from scratch. You don't know what it's like, but the reality of it is understanding your worth and understanding your worthiness and understanding that you have a time and a place. Whenever I speak to people coming up in the business, or I speak to college students who are going through and about to graduate in the industry and jumping out in the industry, I always say you need a bit of kismet, divine intervention. You need whatever you believe, whether it's that the universe is working in concert for you, whether it's that God has ordered your steps. You have to know that you are here for a purpose, and that there will be things that come against that. There will be obstacles, if there are no challenges, I'm scratching my head. You might be on a fast road to somewhere crazy, but they're like, you're going to have challenges, and know that you can move through it. You can bounce back. Resilience is a real thing, And I think for me early on, my mother passed away in 95, and learning I guess the cliche would be, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. It was hard, that was a really tough pill for me, and thinking back, I just kind of waded through for a while and was numb and was like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? What does the future look like? Because I never anticipated this. I never thought my life would be without her. But I did come to this planet out of her womb with my own purpose, and my own initiative. And, honoring her for birthing me is like not sticking my head in the sand and saying, woe is me, I can't live anymore. It is saying, okay, thank you for raising me. Thank you for, stimulating, the gifts and supporting the gifts within me. And how can I make you proud? How can I honor you? How can I honor our ancestors? How can I honor those that came over on the ship from Africa? How can I honor those who came from France? How can I honor everyone who is in a long list of those who came for who were so that I could be,
Right on.
and that's the way that I was able to say, okay, this is how we move through this in therapy.
Girl,
therapy, because for me, therapy is acknowledging that you don't know everything. Therapy is acknowledging that there may be some tools that you don't have. And like my current therapist, because I started the first therapy that I received was in New Orleans after my mom passed, and then here in LA, when I was working at a desk job and I was trying to figure out why I was having trouble transitioning, was it my mindset? I was getting frustrated, and like, what did I need to shed to get to the next level? I went to that therapist, and then my third therapist, who's my current therapist, an amazing man through the VA, because I am an Army veteran and I'm a proud,
Thank you
I'm a proud Army veteran. Thank you, Chandra. Thank you. He said to me, if you're in a pit and the only tool that you have is a shovel, that won't help you. You can be the fastest and the most furious digger there is. You can use that tool until like your hands are raw and blistering, and you will still just be digging deeper. You won't get out of that pit. Sometimes you need a pickaxe. Sometimes you need like a rope and a harness and sometimes you need other tools that you just don't have. And so he said, I'm just here to offer you some different tools.
Yvette. Yvette. So that is exactly why I believe I have been asked to be courageous and brave and to go on this podcast journey. Because I was inspired that so often we find ourselves in places without tools. So often we find ourselves in places where we feel that we are alone and no one else has been there or seen that. And what we learn when we bring these conversations to each other is that we are more different, more sane, more alike than we are different, right?
Yes.
Get that quote right. We're more alike. And in being more alike, we all are seeking to be loved.
Yes.
We all want to feel like we belong, right? And appreciated. And so, I think that as much as we can continue to bring forth these conversations, even, when you can look at it from the outside and say, well, that's the sexy place to be, right? Hollywood. And it is pretty sexy, but there's a whole healthy dose of tools that you need and confidence and strategies to deal with the nose and all the things, right?
Everywhere in life. I have friends all over this country and I have friends abroad. I have friends who are in totally different industries from me who are facing challenges every single day.
That's right on.
And what I tell them too is like, you don't have to leave your growth in the hands of insurance. Like, I don't have insurance. I can't afford therapy. Resources are everywhere.
Yes.
Like this podcast. Like I have a number of podcasts on my phone that like I keep and I listen to regularly. I've taken the responsibility for my growth is mine and mine alone. Because even if you have a therapist, you can sit there and not listen. You can sit there and tune them out. You can decide that, you know, it's not something, I don't need anything. I don't need any more learning. Like, it's not just a therapist that allows you to be able to learn and grow. Get the resources, seek them out. I'm a firm believer. I'm a big champion of Eastern medicine. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Like, seriously, if you are ready to learn, if you are open to learn, if you want new tools, if you want to push past, like you're saying, push through, the teacher will appear. Podcast, therapist, book. Book. Tabitha Brown's new book, bless my whole soul. Like, I mean, I just, like,
girl, let me tell you, I have two right now. Okay, so that, let's see. I'm reading Viola Davis's book.
Yep.
Ooh, you want to talk about a keep it real moment? This sister just
she poured her heart out.
Cuts herself in half and just lets it out, right? And I'm gonna tell you, truth be told, there are parts of it that are so deep, dark, and unattractive that you have to struggle to want to stay in it. You know what I mean? Which is where I think that's the beauty of it, because it really is, to your point, it is some developmental work for you to go through someone's deep dark and allow yourself to bump up against that. And to see what parts resonate for you.
Exactly.
And see how they emerge and see how you emerge. So that one's been wonderful. And then the other one, Mama Curry. Steph Curry's mom and Fidel.
Nice.
So she wrote this book, right? I can't think of the name of it right now. But Mama Curry, everybody should know it. Yeah. And that is also one that is pretty amazing, right?
Yes. I have Viola's on my list, so I'm going to put
Mama Curry. I'm going to get the one for Mama Curry. Let's see. Curry book. How about that? Hang on, I'm pull it up because I know it. It has to. Sonia Curry is her name.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Right. And it's something about fear. But anyway, it should be easy to find. Both of these books, I find in this season of exposing the less than attractive parts of our journey and ourselves, allows people to bring a more humanistic perspective to what we see that makes another person appear to be a star, quote unquote star in our eyes, right? And they've both been through and done some stuff, right? And as we all have. And
but we're all not willing to be transparent.
See, and that's where I think that's it. That's
is.
Where that's where we evolve.
It is.
Because I seriously, I think, it has been in my heart to be intentional, even though I'm talking to incredibly accomplished and mettled people such as yourself in multiple industries around the world. Our conversations are much less about the medals that we have, and it's more about the depth and the realness of who we're becoming.
Yes.
Based on what we've been through and where we see ourselves going. And girl, if that blesses, if that lands in somebody's heart somewhere in this world today, I'm like, yes, Lord.
Yes, that's it. No, that's it. That's it. That's it, Chandra. That's it. That is, that's a whole word. That's a whole, if anybody listening to this can grab a hold of that, like it's everything, because the shiny metals, they fade away. And, I've been very dramatic before. I've done very dramatic. Yes, I have. And, I've won all of these trophies in high school. And I remember, like, at some point going out, I was still in New Orleans at the time, like having a moment of introspection and mourning, and just like, what is happening right now? What am I doing with my life? And going out and throwing every single trophy in the dumpster. Not the garbage can in the kitchen, but the big blue dumpster. And saying, I'm not going to rest on this. I'm not going to, this is not the sum total of my life. These trophies, these accomplishments, which are great, fine, and dandy, but this isn't the sum total of my life. Like, I was meant for more. I was meant to do more. I was meant to impact more people. And it's been that journey of learning, it's the living, it's the sharing what I've been through. It's the sharing of the ugly places when I was like, broke and driving Lyft right before I got my biggest, biggest break. And it was, being in a position where I've helped so many people, and having to help a family member who was in distress, and not like being able to, and watching everyone else pour into me so that I could take this person, back and forth, to outpatient rehab, and be able to pour into their life. It was my village coming around and saying, oh, she needs clothes. Here you go. Oh, she needs, what else does she need? And so them pouring through me to her, and watching, people whose lives I've poured into constantly say, we got you. We got you. This is my village. Being transparent about those things, being transparent about, the glitz and the glam, as well as like the heartache and the sorrow. We are not all one, shiny object. We're not. No one is.
No one is.
People who look at like the travels, people who look at like the outside, people who admire and, look and glamorize the things that people are doing and saying, oh my God, their life is so perfect. It's a lie. It's a lie. And if we would just say, you know what, I'm human. I hurt just like you hurt. I love just like you love. I experience disappointment just like you experience disappointment. Keep living. You're going to get through it. Keep loving. You're going to get through it. Surround yourself with a great village that holds you, that hugs you when you hurt, that lifts you up. Find your happy space. Feed the squirrels like I feed the squirrels.
Well, and Yvette, even go back to that one moment, even if you didn't have the best childhood, there was probably one moment that made you really happy and filled you with joy. Think of that, just like we started this podcast. Because
that's amazing. Thank you for bringing me back to that. You're absolutely correct. Because there are many things that I could think about in childhood, and from bullying, there's a time, it'll be in the book. So that choose to remember the happy spaces. And let that usher let that live in, let that live, let that breathe.
Girl, we could keep going. But I believe we got to let you get back to writing some cool stuff so that we can watch some cool shows on TV.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
The things. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm so proud of you. And
you.
I am grateful to God that I
Yeah.
have a village of all stars and you are a
Yes.
part of it. Thank
Yes.
you,
As am
Yvette.
I. Thank you. Look, I want to go grab my Converse, girl, and put my shoes on.
All
That's
right.
I know. As soon as you said it, when we opened, I was like, oh, I should have put my Converse on today. Yeah. So that's but I will put them on and remember and remind myself that I am part of your village as you are mine. Thank you, Chandra.
Well,
Thank
thank you. God bless
All right.
you.
God bless
Bye.
you. Yay.